I'm going to mute myself.
Perfect. So we're going to move on to the next few topics. A couple of weeks ago, we were talking about the different chart layers, how you can look at the weather, how you can. It was mainly about the pre-planning, so looking at the weather and tide, doing things in preparation before you get out onto the water. And so what I wanted to do now was look more at how to use the app when you're on the water. So I'm going to go through some route planning. Active tracking is where you effectively turn the app into your chart plotter. So you kind of press go and it records your track. So the planning a route is what you set up beforehand, and then tracking is how you follow that particular route. And then I'll go through anchoring as well. I'm challenging myself because I'm using a version of the app with a location override. So I'm faking my position into Croatia and the Mediterranean. So hopefully the technology works, and if it doesn't, bear with me while I reboot things in the background. But this is the topics. Sneak peeks. We've got a couple of new features that we're just about to launch, and so at the end I can let you guys know a little bit about that as well. So I'm going to change my screen. I'm going to share my app with you all. And I think from my memory from the last session, I need to scroll and zoom around the app a bit slower in case my bandwidth doesn't keep up. I think maybe it froze last time. So hopefully everybody can see the phone screen now. So as I said, I've faked my position, so it looks like I'm in. I'm just outside Split. So the green arrow when you're using the SavvyNavvy app is basically your GPS location, and it's taking the GPS from your device. So it's showing here that I've got location override is active, which you guys can probably see. This is a feature we've set up more for instructors and for training schools, so that when you're teaching, you can do a similar thing. You can instead of showing your green arrow in the middle of the classroom, it's going to show you in the out on the water. And then from a planning and a using the app in action point of view, I figured what would probably work well is to go through how I used the app myself when I chartered in Croatia a couple of years ago. So I took my family to Split and we took a boat for a week, and we did a little bit of kind of cruising and anchoring and had some fun down here. So all of the places where you can see green, the green circle with the star, these are places that I had identified before I went. So the way I used the app to plan my trip, I looked at all of these anchorages. So just tapping on the different anchor symbols. And again, these are all anchorage data and marina data that we get from Navly because we work closely with the Navly guys. So I used this feature a lot when I was planning my trip. And we had like a 7-day charter. So I tried to plan out a route every single day that I saved, so that I didn't need to sit on the dock the night before or the morning before leaving. I always knew exactly what was going to happen the next day. The only thing I needed to do was update any weather information. So I looked through lots of these anchorages and decided where I was going to stop, and saved particular points to make my life easier while I was out on the water and planning. So on day one, when we left Split, so to go into the how you would plan a route inside the app, if I just tap on routes, there's one in here already, so I'm going to clear the route. So I was going to start in Split. This is the marina that we were in. So I'm going to drop my first pin just outside the marina. And on day one, what I wanted to do was just get away from the marina, but not go too far. So I aim to kind of head somewhere over here. I plan my route. It first of all gives me a total distance. So it's only 16 kilometers, and it wouldn't take an awful lot of time. And it meant that everybody could get used to the boat really easily. And then I plotted the route. There's no tide, as everybody knows, in the Mediterranean. Here you can see a very small tidal vector, but it's pretty much a straight line and a really easy sail. I'd already checked out the weather, so if you guys can remember back to the first session, if I tap on the icon that's got the diamonds just underneath the north arrow, and I turn on the wind animation, this is probably similar to what you guys are seeing at the moment. So I would be going not quite downwind, but I would go really fast if I was going to sail this now. Looking at this, I would decide not to go, and I would stay in the marina in Split. We were making this trip in the summer a couple of years ago, so the winds were a lot lighter. But the process I went through was check out the wind, made sure I had a really nice wind angle. I wasn't beating. I didn't have to go upwind, and the boat wasn't too uncomfortable. So I'm going to turn off the wind animation now. So this was the route pretty much that I planned, and I planned an anchorage right in here. So now we've got our route to start. All I need to do is press the start button, and it's going to take us from where the green arrow is. And you can see we've got the range circles that are in here. I'm looking at where the direction it's taking me. And just going to come out of here for a second. And then press plot route again. So you can see my green arrow just then turn around. And we're now going to be following the route down here. If I'm off course, so when I was out here doing this, I didn't always follow the line directly, because either I found a better wind angle, I could go a bit faster or slower, or there were ferries coming in and out of Split, and there were other vessels around. So I didn't always follow the course that I'd set exactly. But if I got too far off course, the app would then ask me, do I want to replot the course? It's going to give me an updated ETA. So you can see we're moving nicely down our route here. I set my speed, because this is a demo, I set my speed slightly higher than we would actually be going at the time, just so you could see how this works. And now when I press start, it takes me into a heading up mode. I can go back to north up if I want, but I prefer to be on a heading up. You can see the time at the bottom. You can see the distance. We're going at just over 9 knots, just slightly under 10 knots. And I can zoom in. And you can see that we're tracking along there, very close to the route that we plotted. I've got my course over the ground. So this is showing what we're actually doing as opposed to the route that we plotted. As I said, it'll give us an updated ETA constantly. So if I'm going faster than I anticipated, it's going to tell me I'm going to get there ahead of schedule. Our ETA is dynamic. And it display cross-track error. It doesn't at the moment display cross-track error. It just shows you your course over the ground. And you can see there it's updated. It's going to take us 33 minutes now. And we're 10.2 kilometers. I can zoom back out and I can see exactly where it's taking us, which is going to be in here. So I'm just going to stop doing this for now. The route will carry on in the background. It's going to keep tracking down there. But so this was how I actually use the app. So this is moving it from a pre-planning into using the app out on the water. And I actually didn't have I think one of the questions from the last session was about using the phone battery and how long the battery lasted. I actually didn't keep this open all the time. So if I just, I'm not sure this is going to work. This is another, I didn't test this beforehand, but I'm going to try and show you how I use the app when I was on the water. So I would turn the app off. I would put it in my pocket. And on my phone, it's my screen's gone blank, but you can still see it on the display for some reason. So I'd keep the phone in my pocket. I would then open it up again, and every little while I would check to make sure we're still on course. I would check the weather again to make sure nothing had changed. And so I never got to a point where my phone was running out of battery. The other good thing about being in the Mediterranean and being around here actually was that we kind of had line of sight. I could always see where I was going. If I was further offshore, if I didn't have any visual clues and features that I could look at, then I would have kept the phone open a lot more and I would have tracked a lot more using the app. But I could kind of see where I was going, which is partly why we plan to do this. And then the next thing I was going to show you guys is, so we were talking about, I'm going to go back into North Up. So we're talking about some of the anchorages and where we actually stayed. So this was the first anchorage we stayed at for the first night. And we set the anchor alarm. And I am going to turn off location for a second. I'm going to turn it back on and put the boat in here. So this is where we were. We jumped to this location and then I set the anchor alarm, which is a really easy thing to do. Just go back into the main menu, tap on anchor alarm, and then it sets up the geo fence. So I figured I'd dropped the anchor about probably 15 meters away from the boat as I kind of went astern to let some more cable out. I then moved the outer circle. So I wanted to make sure that I was clear in the bay. And then there was another boat that was just kind of in front of us to the side. So I set that boundary and then just click on set alarm. And my anchor alarm was then set for the night. And we stayed at this anchorage for from about, I don't know, like 5 o'clock in the evening through to lunchtime the next day. And the anchor alarm was happily active in the background. If I go into logbook, I can actually show you when I find it. This was the recording from the anchorage. So that's what we actually did while we were there. The boat was kind of swinging around, and this is the recording of the track from the anchorage, and you can see it was what particular time and day. I forgot to turn the anchor alarm off when I left. And so as soon as we got outside of this, the area that we'd set the alarm in, the alarm went off on my phone. It reminded me I'd got the anchor alarm set, and I turned it off and we carried on. So the anchor alarm is a very, very easy thing to set. You can set your distance based on how much anchor chain you've let out. You can set a safe area if there's another yacht that's anchored, if there's a rock, or if there's something that you need to avoid. And then your boat will happily stay in this particular area. And if it goes out of it, it's going to notify you. And then to dismiss the alarm, just tap on dismiss. And then you can leave again. So I'd set up a whole bunch of routes for the particular week. So then on day 2, we left that particular area, and we had quite a long sail on the next day, and we came all the way over here. And I built up my itinerary through the week. So I did the pre-planning of working out where to be on day 1, on day 2, on day 3, so that when I came to use the app, everything was already pre-saved. And again, if I go into my logbook at the bottom right, and I tap on the routes that I'd saved, unless I deleted them, which hopefully I didn't, there you go. So I've got the split charter day 1, day 2, day 3, day 4, day 5, day 6, day 7. So all of this I built up before I actually got to the boat, which meant when I got there, I didn't need to worry too much about what we wanted to do. We could make a new plan if we wanted to, but I had a very rough base layer. So all the pre-planning that we went through in that first session, all of this was done. If I tap on day 4 of the charter, that's the route that I planned. So I planned to go from point A to point B. This is the route that I'd already saved. Because I'd done the planning well in advance, the weather and the situation around the planning would be a little bit different. Also, when I was doing the pre-planning, I didn't know exactly the boat I was going to get and the draft of the boat. So by saving the route and then pressing plot again, it's now going to plot this route again based on today's weather and based on the boat dimensions I've already got. So it would be slightly different to the planning. The start point and the end point will be exactly the same, but it would give me a slightly different route because the weather's going to be a little bit different. So then again, I could press start and it would start recording, and our green arrow would track between points A and points B. So I've gone from planning each day into executing when I'm out on the water. So I can then go back into day 5. So this was the following day. We didn't do this. I decided this was probably too ambitious. And so decided not to do this one in the end, but it was there as a good plan. And again, you plot the routes, and it saves us so much time because all of the pre-work, and it's actually the part that's really exciting, is doing the planning and figuring out where to go. So all these green pins, these were all places I've decided potentially I could go. We always aim not to go into a marina because the marinas were expensive. The marinas are really busy. And actually what we wanted to do was find some really nice quiet bays. We've done lots of provisioning and we just wanted a nice quiet time. So we planned not to go into any marinas. I did drop a few pins to make sure I knew where to go and refuel the day before we took the boat back. Is there anything in there that anybody had any questions about before I go any further?
Yes, I had a question I put it in the chat if it's okay. My question was if it can display cross-track error.
Yeah, I think I'm not sure if you heard when I answered that. At the moment, it doesn't show any cross-track error, but it's going to automatically update your route. So if I've plotted this route and I've planned, and this is where I'm planning to go. If I'm not following the route, rather than show a cross-track error, it'll show my location as it's moving, and if it gets too far off course, it will just automatically replot the route, and it will give me an updated ETA.
And I'm gonna come with a follow-back question regarding this. Can it do this while offline? The replanning?
Yeah. So so the thing to do is you save this area. So let me just try and do this now while we're speaking. So if I go to offline charts and then add a new chart pack, so it's chosen this area that this is for my second or whatever day it was. This was for day 5 or something. I'm going to reduce the weather right down to 1 day and then download this chart pack. So it's going to download the pack. Anything that I then do in this area without any coverage at all, it's going to work in exactly the same way as if I was connected and online. So I can do all the same things. I can track, I can route, I can interact with the app in exactly the same way. You can go up to 4 days of weather, but normally you're kind of day sailing in this kind of instance. And so by reducing the number of days, it means that it's a smaller kind of chart pack. You can see there's 155 megabytes of chart data. There are 900 kilobytes of weather data. If I update this, so because it's downloaded the weather for today, if I want to look at this tomorrow, I'm going to go tomorrow. I just tap the update button, and then it re-downloads the weather. The chart data hasn't changed, and so it's a very, very quick update. So you just get a new weather pack effectively. And I can now, inside this area, I can do all of the things that I would normally do. When you're looking at this, it doesn't look any different. You don't kind of get a line around it to say, this is an offline pack. So there's no indicator on the chart. You can just do all of the same things. So if I went to airplane mode now on my phone, and let me test this to make sure it still works. So I've gone into airplane mode, so I don't have any signal, but I can still interact with the chart. I could still plot a route if I want to. I could modify this route, and I could move this pin a little bit if I want to go to here instead. I can plot the route. So it's working in exactly the same way, even though I have no signal at all. And then for each of the individual days, I will just download a chart pack for each of the days that I'm out. I could try and let me see if this works. I'm going to choose a much bigger area just to see if I can break it, because let me see, I need to turn off airplane mode because I need to be connected for this to work. And I'm going to try and download a much bigger area. One of the, can you still see my screen? It's not looking like it's connected at the moment here.
Now it's all black.
Oh, but okay, let me stop sharing. I'll go back into it. I think it's because I was messing around with. I need to open this again. I did say I was going to try to break this, and I think I did. Let me just reconnect my phone. Okay, I've got it back. So one of the things to be aware of when you're downloading a chart area, if the chart area is too big, because we have a lot of land data in SavvyNavvy as well. So if I zoom in slowly into Split, you can see we have hotels, we have street names, we have a lot of land data as well, because when you go to somewhere, it's not, you know, you need to navigate. You want the chart to show you where you are when you're on the water, but when you come into port, it's really useful to know where you can find a shop to provision, where you can find a restaurant, things like that. So there's a lot of land data as well. What that means is when you're downloading chart areas, there's an awful lot of data. It's taking the land data as well as the data on the water. So if I try and download an offline chart and I'll add a new chart pack, and I try and choose this entire area, then let me see. Yeah, it looks like that did that really quickly. So again, 145 megabytes of data and the just under a megabyte of weather data. So you can download a large area like this, or you can break it down into smaller chunks and you can do it day by day. A good thing to try and do is just to experiment to see how big an area you can start to download. I've managed to do the whole of the Solent before, but if you get much bigger than that, because there's so much land around, you've got the whole of the Isle of Wight and things like that, it can be difficult to do. Then I can name this, and I can call this my Croatia Charter. And now this chart area is within my downloaded pack. So if I go back now into airplane mode, all of this area is saved locally on my phone. And you can see, you can build up lots and lots of downloaded chart packs. So you can delete them if you have too many, if it's taking up too much phone space. But yeah, it's you can have lots and lots in there. I mentioned a kind of a sneak peek. I'm going to zoom back in to this route here that we planned. And then you can see at the bottom we have waves. So this is I don't know if I mentioned this last time. This is about to launch. So if I tap anywhere in the chart here, you can then see the sea state at the moment is classed as moderate. The wave height is just under 1 meter, but the waves are about 4 seconds apart. So they're not too close together. The closer the waves are, even if the waves are not very high, it would give you a different comfort factor. So you could actually have a small wave height, but a very close period between the waves, which would mean that you're constantly banging and bumping and it's really uncomfortable. If you have a larger wave height, but a bigger distance in between the waves, it's actually more comfortable because you, as I'm sure you all know, you ride over the waves much easier. And then I can scroll through and I can see actually tomorrow. Now, again, it's showing moderate. The wave height is greater, but there is a longer time span in between the waves. We're now up to 6 seconds. So we have 1.3 meters, but still 6 seconds. So it's still moderate. And then the wave height comes down a little bit here. And then it's even lower. So this is very calm. It's only 0.3 meters, 4 second time period between the waves. So this wave feature is another great one to use in your planning while you're checking out the weather. So if I just change to the weather tab, it then shows me it's using the same pin and it's showing me what the weather is going to be doing. So if we wait until Sunday, super calm, gusting 12 knots, but averaging 8-knot winds. It's coming from the north, and that's why obviously the waves are smoothed out as well. The wind's calming down an awful lot. So by using in the Mediterranean, the tide is probably less vital for you, but using weather and using waves, it gives you a really nice visual indication of when is a great time to be out and when isn't. So Monday's not too bad. Then it starts to pick up again a little bit overnight. Tuesday's looking nice as well. So by just flicking between the weather and the waves, I've got a really nice idea about the kind of anchorage to go to. So looking at the wind direction, we find an anchorage in here. So just tapping on this anchorage, it's going to show me the weather protection. So by looking at the wind direction, then looking at each anchorage, I know which ones are going to offer me the best protection. By looking at the waves and the wave direction, I can start to see are waves coming into the bay or are they going past the bay, and is this going to be super sheltered? So these are all, excuse me, these are all really good indicators for when you're doing your pre-planning. Before you start to head out on the water, and then you're using them when you're out as well. So I think probably in the early days of SavvyNavvy, it was very much seen more as a pre-planning tool, whereas now, as we've added some more features and we've added active tracking and track recording, it works very much like a chart plotter. I think I showed everybody before, but let me just run through this again. I can even connect to NMEA. So talking about how it's going to work on the boat. If you have any an NMEA, either 0183 or 2000, you can connect that. I'm just going to type in some dummy details that I've got. And save that. And now, as well as having the live location tracking and as well as tracking my routes, I can now see any boat data that's been transmitted via NMEA if you've got a gateway and it's transmitting it. And then you come back out to your route and you can see at the top, I've got the depth, I've got my course over the ground, I've got my engine at revs, we're sailing, so I don't need that anymore. I can change it to my heading. I can change this into any number of different settings. Another kind of feature update, we're working on the NMEA 2000 release at the moment. We started with NMEA 0813, and we're now about to add NMEA 2000. Something else I used an awful lot when I was in Croatia. I'm just going to go back into the chart layers and turn on AIS. And so you can now see if there are any vessels transmitting AIS, especially for coming in and out of Split, because there are so many ferries around. You can start to look at the other vessels that are around. Passenger ferry here. I used it whenever I saw a really nice, big, expensive yacht to try and figure out who it was and what they were doing. And this is probably another ferry that's coming back in. That's going the opposite way. Coming through the gap here. Visually, you can see there's not an awful lot going on. You've got you've got a few wrecks. You've got the buoy here. You've got the starboard marker. So I knew what to avoid, but I could kind of see through this channel. It was really easy to navigate by line of sight. But again, there's this is probably another ferry, is my guess. Yeah, another ferry coming through here. So you can see the other vessels that are around you or might be kind of getting ahead of you and towards where you're going to be. So it's a really good aid. Just to call out, the AIS that's inside the app is Internet AIS. So once you've downloaded a chart pack, if you're not connected, you're not going to see these AIS vessels. But if you have AIS on your boat and you've connected to NMEA, then you would see AIS pop up here. So you can see AIS in a slightly different way if you're offline in this area. Are there any other questions so far? I don't know if people are putting questions into the chat. I'll see if I can open the chat.
David, how did you add those green points with a star?
Green points, great question. Okay, so let me show you. So the fuel dock, I'm pretty sure, was
no,
the fuel harbor.
You have them.
Yeah, sure. Yeah. So if I wanted to save this fuel station, for example, what I would do is just touch the chart and hold my finger on the chart for a period of time. And you see that goes around in a circle and then it drops this point. So it's called it marker 198. Obviously, that just means I've got 197 already in there.
Oh.
So I can save this. I can then tap on the little pencil and I can call this fuel dock, save it, and then that's in my saved items in my logbook. So if I go into the logbook now, so you can see the routes are things that you've planned, the tracks are things that you've actually done, and then all your markers are saved there. So I've got my fuel dock, I just need to tap on that and it takes me straight back in the chart to the fuel dock, and wherever I am, I could just tap on navigate to, and it would then create a route from my live location to that particular point. And that's where I had to go before I took the boat back to refuel. And I had to sit in a very long queue, as I'm sure lots of you have experienced as well.
Thanks.
And I can share this as well. So if there's a group of us out, I could share this particular point. I can share the marker with either text or by WhatsApp. I can share it by email with anybody I like. And actually talking about sharing, it kind of leads me into another update. So something, again, I'm not sure if I mentioned this last time. Something we're working on at the moment is a live location sharing. So for when you were on the Solent and now you're in Greece, if there's a group of you, you could set up within SavvyNavvy, you could set up a group So you share your own locations as well as seeing the AIS vessels here. You could set up a group and each see where you all are when you're live on the water. You can kind of track where you're going if you're heading to the same anchorages and things like that. So that's going to work really well for if a group of you are chartering, if there's a few boats out training, or if you're racing. So for racers as well, this would work very well. That's probably going to be live in about 3-4 weeks, I think.
What about the waves when they will be in the app?
Yeah, so waves at the moment, waves are they're in kind of testing. They're going to go, so we've got slightly different for all of our instructors that we work with. The instructors have a slightly different account. They get early access to some features. And it's a really good way for us to get feedback and how we refine and kind of come up with a version 2 for different features. So for any instructors who have professional accounts with us, the wave feature will go live today. Andrea, you may, if you look inside your version of the app, you may see that now, or you may need to update. You'll probably see waves. And then on Monday, it's going to go live for everybody. So we've got a few days where there's an early release, and then it's going to be live for all of our users, I think, from Monday.
Great, thanks.
There is, so I just showed you here, I can tap on the chart and I can see waves. I can also go into the layer. So if I tap on, again, the circle with the diamond in it and turn on waves, turn on that layer, you can then see the, make sure it's working. Zoom out. You should see the, there you go. So you can then see the animation of the waves. So you can see the direction that they're heading there, trucking pretty much east. So you can see the visual animation of the wave as well as the as well as tapping into the chart and seeing them there as well. And yeah, that should be live from Monday. I think, I'll just check my calendar. It is, I think it's it's due to be the 6th that goes live. I think that's everything I need to cover today. That's all of the feature updates that we have coming out. Any questions about anchoring or about how to kind of set routes and plot routes and record your routes when you're on the water?
There are some questions on the chat room, in the chat room.
Okay, yeah. Perfect. Okay, I've got that.
I need to add something. But from my
you
mobile.
need to add something?
Yeah, because I did a print screen and it's on my mobile. And it's a question regarding the maps that you're using and how we can address, what is the method to address issues? For example, if we find something on a map which is not correct,
yeah,
who do we contact? We send an email. Is there an in-app communication method? Like, hey guys,
yeah,
I just stumbled across this issue. Maybe you should look on it. I'm trying to get into the chat on my mobile, and I'll be able to share with you exactly to say what I'm saying.
Yeah, let me, I'm just going to share my screen again, and hopefully you can see that. So if you're going to the main menu, where you have chat with us, So if I tap on chat, this will send a message directly into our help desk. And so you can report things here. You can email me directly. So for lots of our users, because I get to know a lot of the users and the instructors, you could just email me. Typically what would happen is if you report there's a, I don't know, say for example, let me zoom out.
I'm not able. Look, I'm not able to upload the picture that I made from SavvyNavvy. If you're searching, for example, Alimos Marina in Athens, you're gonna see that the
What's
water
it called?
breakers.
Spell that.
Alimos. ALIMOS. Alimos.
ALIMOS.
MOS. Exactly, the first one. Okay, perfect. If you're going into the marina, in the biggest marina in Alimos, there should be somewhere. Not there. Zoom out. Let me get my bearings on the left.
I imagine it's okay because I've got AIS.
Okay. If you're going at the entrance, you're gonna find that the water breakers are doubled.
Yeah.
And
They're doubled?
it's not. They are doubled, meaning that the green lateral mark and the red lateral mark are somehow not there. And we were doing night nav last night, and I was checking SavvyNavvy and exactly what's going on, and I was trying to understand why we have this issue, because it's something totally it's not correct, meaning that the wall in front of the green lateral mark is not there. And I was trying to figure out a way to notice the SavvyNavvy team. Hey, look, guys, you should look over this because it's not properly set up. That was my question.
Perfect. Okay. So two things you could do. You could use the chat in the app and just do the chat with us, and then that would send a message to one of my colleagues. Or what's really useful, it sounds like, is what you did, is take a screenshot. And I'm actually going to do the same thing while I am talking to you, so I don't forget. And if you send me a screenshot, so what I'll then do is I go to our cartography team who speak to the hydrographic office. So this is the most up-to-date data that the Greek hydrographic office have released to us. But we can speak to them directly and say, okay, one of our users has been here, they've seen this, here's a screenshot, this is not
but
the
change
reality.
it to satellite. Change the layer to satellite.
Yeah, but the thing is that I'm doing navigation. When I'm doing navigation, I'm not doing a navigation from satellite. There is clearly a problem with the overlay, and I'm more than sure that the technical people who are in charge with this overlay should have a look at. And that was my question. But anyway, you answered my question. We can carry on.
So is this, I just want to make sure, so this is right, the green lateral marker does not sit on the end of the breakwater?
Exactly. And in the app itself, you are getting two water breakers, which is not the case.
You are. So I think what's happened here is, for some reason, the breaker that the starboard lateral marker on doesn't exist, but the one below it does, and the port lateral marker is on a line that doesn't exist. That's the finger of the marina, isn't it?
It's an overlay issue, and also if you're looking at the map, you're gonna see that there is a road which passes through water, which is not the case. If you're switching back to the default, you're gonna see on the northern part of the marina that there is a road which passes more north, northeast. You're gonna see a road which passes through water. Yeah. So it's a problem with the overlay. See? And what my initial question is, how can I report this sort of mishaps? And I got my answer. Okay.
Yeah, just tell me. I think I know why this is the case, and I can report it back to the team, and I can get them to work on it. So, and the same for everybody else on the call. If there is something that you spot, you can use the chat in the app. Normally, what would happen is they would probably just tell me anyway. So just send me an email; it's much quicker.
I have another question regarding the premium option with the IIS. Yesterday, for example, we were crossing the TSS, and I wanted to ask if the zoom in, zoom out feature is affecting the visibility of the IIS targets.
It shouldn't
Meaning
do
that-
because. Sorry, go on.
The thing is that I had a ship in the TSS channel, which I could clearly see, and it was not on my AIS target, and it only appeared when I zoomed in. And it was funny because the other guys in my team, in my crew, they were able to observe it on different services. But me on SavvyNavvy, I was not able to see that particular passenger ship, only when I was zooming in. And this was my question, if it has anything, or it was maybe something related to the mobile connection that I was having at that particular time.
Yeah, I think it's the latter, because you can see here, if I zoom right out.
It was the same thing, and it's not something.
If I zoom too far out, then it's not going to show them, because there'd be too many. It would just clutter the entire chart view. So there is a certain zoom level when they come in, but I imagine you were zoomed in a lot closer than this. So you should have seen it. So it sounds like it was a connection issue. Maybe your signal dropping in and out.
Okay.
Yeah. I'm just looking at some of the other questions. So Dan asked if you can import markers from Navionics. You can. We specifically worked on a feature to import markers. Location. And I'll get back to you on where that feature is, but there is a way to import markers from any other platforms that you've used in the past if you save points. You export them from Navionics as a certain file type, and then you import it into SavvyNavvy. So importing and exporting. I'm not seeing it on here. It's normally in this section. But yes, it is. It is possible to do. I'll get the details of how and send it across to you. Is the true wind angle or apparent considered for the beat angle in the configuring? Yeah. So if I go into the boat settings, I think we mentioned this last time, and configure polars. So then I can change my beat angle. And save it in there. So when I change that, then it would update my routing and how I can route. And yeah, it's based on true wind.
I also had a question regarding to the downloading of the charts. We are downloading the charts and also the weather. Are we also able to download the tide data?
Yeah, so the tidal data doesn't download, but it still works for the routing. So what's the easiest way for me to show you this? I got to offline.
So it only downloads the tidal data, which is related to the routing that I did.
Yeah. So your particular route has got that factored in
Mhm.
into the routing, but you won't be able to look at the. I'll double check. I don't think you can look at the tidal curve. I'm just trying to.
I mean, I checked last week, and that's why I
Yeah.
was asking, because
Yeah.
all the time for the tidal data and the stream, everything,
Mhm.
I had to have an active connection to have the refresh. Otherwise, for a certain period of time, I was not able to get the tidal data without an active data connection. So
Yeah, I think it factors in the tide for the routing, but doesn't give you the option. You mean when you're in here and you try and find the tidal curves?
okay, I mean, in my opinion, if I would be sailing in a tidal area, that would be an amazing option to have when you download the particular chart. Also to have the option to update to download the data for a certain period of time, and also the tidal information. As long as I'm downloading it,
Yeah.
why not? Because we had this, I was trying to use in offline mode, and I had no tidal data. I didn't have plotted the course, anything. I was just trying to check when I'm going to arrive at which hour, how the tide is gonna look. That's what the thing.
Yeah.
And, yeah. Okay.
Yeah, I'll ask that question. It may be that we do and it wasn't working, or it may be at the moment we don't, and I can ask the question as to why and get back to you.
There is
And
another.
also, yeah, just to add as well, if there are any other questions that we haven't had time to ask, just send them to me, Andrea, and I'll answer the questions. Then you can circulate them to your your guys.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
Okay. Thank you very much, David, for your time and the effort. Thank you once more. I hope that we're gonna be able to have the same training, the same workshop also next year.
I hope so.
I said we record this, and we're gonna put it online on our YouTube channel. So thank you once more for your help, and
Pleasure.
have a nice season ahead, and all the best from windy Athens at the moment.
Yeah, I really hope the weather improves for all of you.
No, it won't.
It will on Friday.
It will on Friday, maybe.
Which is the day you leave, right?
No,
Yes.
on Saturday we're gonna leave,
Just
but
check out.
we finish on Friday.
Yeah.
We're gonna be inside.
Yeah, make the most of it, and I'm sure you'll still enjoy yourselves.
Okay. Thank you everyone for participating. Thank you, David, once more. Have a nice evening,
Pleasure.
everyone.
Bye.
Cheers. Bye-bye.